Gangster, moonshine, bootlegger. Those words carry many tales and legends that to this day make people dream or shiver in the Lake Champlain Valley and the Haut-Richelieu region. A century ago, the American economy was recovering from the harsh conditions of the First World War. Hopes were high and hearts dived into a jolly effervescence. But on the flip side, certain social and religious groups started worrying about the influence of drinking on society's morality. Over time, the temperance movement pressured the governments of the United States and Canada. Alcohol was finally banned, but of course, it did not disappear. The province of Quebec did not vote for the ban, and the population continued to sell and drink alcohol legally and secretly. The border was officially closed to alcohol commerce, but smuggling between the USA and Canada intensified. Alcohol still flowed south of the border, following new routes and by new means. Traces of the prohibition and the war on contraband, led by the authorities of the time, can still be found in modern-day vocabulary, in movies, in literature, and so on. Follow us as we travel back to the origins of the myths and characters of the Prohibition. Prohibition in Canada and the USA aimed to banish the sale and consumption of intoxicating drinks, in other words, alcohol. Almost every government will impose this law during the First World War, following the international temperance movement. Let's talk about this movement, which developed during the 19th century until the beginning of the 20th century. Temperance defenders recommended abstinence from alcohol. They advocated in favor of closing bars and taverns to get society rid of the demon rum. Temperance partisans believed that alcohol consumption was an obstacle to economic success, social cohesion, and moral and religious purity. On September 29, 1898, the Canadian government held a plebiscite on prohibition. Quiz! Do you know what a plebiscite is? A. A venous disease related to phlebitis. B. A public consultation by a yes or no vote. Or C. An illegal buccaneer gathering, also known as a pirate party. The correct answer is B. A plebiscite is a public consultation regarding an important decision. We could also define it as the referendum of the time. The result is quite surprising, since the yes, that is in favor of the adoption of a law on prohibition, won with 51.2% of the votes. But, despite this victory, the Canadian Parliament will not pass the law. Nope, the government will let the provinces choose by themselves. During the First World War, prohibition was considered a patriotic gesture and a sacrifice for victory. That way, many provinces will follow and forbid the sale of alcohol on their territory. In fact, all provinces except for Quebec. In Quebec, the law on prohibition of May 19th will apply only to liquor and will be abolished 2 years later in 1921 with the creation of the Commission des liqueurs du Québec, the ancestor of the SAQ. But in the list of all the alcohol to legalize, we forgot one. We forgot to legalize cider. Surprising fact, cider will become legal only in 1970. Talking about cider, the Haut-Richelieu has many orchards, especially around Mount Saint-Grégoire. We count 6 orchards, 2 of which are cider mills. Denis Charbonneau's cider mill and Léo Boutin's cider mill are both situated on Rang de la Montagne. They produce exquisite ciders that compose our terroir's pride. From 1919 to 1933, the Volstead Act forbade the production, transportation, sale, importation, and exportation of alcohol. The outcome? An alarming increase in criminality and corruption and the birth of a species that still makes an impression today, the bootlegger. Bootlegger is an American term that appeared a long time before the era of prohibition. This term was first used during the American Civil War. Quiz! What does the expression bootlegger mean exactly? A. The man who hides a bottle of alcohol in his boot. B. The man who, when dead, only has a pair of boots to pass down to his loved ones. C. A very popular brand of leather shoelaced boots. Or D. The anglicization of an old French expression, bouilli de la gueule, who became bootlegger. The correct answer is A. The man who hides a bottle of alcohol in his boot. But do not believe that gangster stories were strictly happening in the United States. Quebec found itself in the center of a criminal activity concerning the sale and production of illegal alcohol. Indeed, as of 1921, prohibition was abolished in Quebec, which made our beautiful province the only place in North America where selling and producing alcohol was legal. Hello, new business opportunities. The Haut-Richelieu, situated near the American border, was an excellent region for alcohol trafficking. Conrad Labelle, our notorious contrabandist, will call the shots in the area and will lead the operations. Born in Farnham, he grew up in Iberville. And Labelle became the right-hand man of an American gangster, the famous Al Capone, also known as Scarface. When we say Labelle was a true contrabandist, we cannot go wrong. He drank a lot, lit his cigars with $100 bills, played all of his winnings, and owned an armored Cadillac. Finally, in 1923, he was arrested in the United States, and the word on the street is that this exact year, his fortune was made of 30 cars and $400,000. But what was in those bottles? A good pure malt whiskey? A divine and refined nectar? Not at all. In those bottles, we often found moonshine. It is clandestinely homemade eau de vie, and we have no control whatsoever over its quality and its alcohol percentage, which meant that in those bottles we found a fraudulent and dangerous liquor for anyone who tried it. Quiz! What dangers faced people who consumed a clandestinely made alcohol? A. At the first sip, the ground opened under their feet as they disappeared in hell. B. It caused intoxication, which made them blind and could even be fatal. Or C. It caused a permanent and contagious bad breath. The answer is B. Moonshine can intoxicate its consumers, make them blind, or cause their death. Well, cheers! At your own risk. A contrabandist career is calling you? Let me give you real tips that stood the test of time. Tip 1. You care about the well-being of your neighbor? Create a medication particularly rich in alcohol. Tip 2. Are you raising hens? Well, export your eggs. You simply need to empty them with a syringe and fill them with alcohol. What a festive omelet. Tip 3. You offer delivery. Well, replace the air in those tires, and quickly. And while you're here, double the space in your gasoline tank. There, you have a brand new container for your merchandise. Ah, are you using a boat instead? Did you ever consider sticking the bottles to the hull of your boat? Totally unnoticed. We currently are at the courthouse in Saint-Jean-sur-Richelieu, which has an exceptional patrimonial value. The building still accurately represents its original construction, which dates from 1861 here on Saint-Charles Street. By the way, did you know that in Saint-Jean-sur-Richelieu there were 3 public executions, and that it was not always easy to find an executioner? I wonder why. The first person found guilty was named Cyprien Costafrola, accused of murder in 1878. The second was Dollar Lépine, found guilty in 1916 for killing Albert Wing during an armed robbery. Finally, the scaffold will be used for the last time on June 16, 1921, to execute Harry Fraser. We are then, of course, in the Prohibition era, and this American, found guilty of murder, was well known in the world of contraband. It is said that Conrad Labelle himself witnessed Fraser's last moments. For your information, in Canada, capital punishment was abolished in 1976. The courthouse opening attracted the francophone elite of Saint-Jean, who established themselves in the neighborhood, and that became the civic core of the time. Right beside it is the Marchand Park, a beautiful public space that belongs to the town thanks to Félix Gabriel Marchand's efforts. It is also named after him. Here you can enjoy very nice moments. You can take advantage of the gazebo, calmly wander, or even read the different interpretation panels to always learn a bit more about history. The festive era of the Roaring Twenties brutally ends with the arrival of an unprecedented financial crisis. 1929 marks the beginning of the Great Depression and the most important economic crisis of the 20th century. Prohibition in the United States will last 13 years, from 1920 to 1933. Once the Volstead Act was abolished on February 17th on American territory, alcohol sales finally resumed on both sides of the border.